Welcome back to the channel, and today those of us who signed up for the email notifications for Jurassic World Evolution 3 got a bit of a surprise in the form of a new video, which we knew was coming today, but I don't think any of us were really expecting that much from it. But this video that we've all received today, or those of us who had signed up for the information off the website received today, actually highlighted some interesting new elements, stuff we hadn't seen before, which is nice. So I thought I would quickly go through this particular video with you guys and highlight some of the things I think is particularly interesting and just point out what I think is cool about this video. So the video is entitled Official Park Tour, and basically it looks to be just showing off the Japanese park that they use in the trailers, but we're seeing a lot more of various bits of this park. The first opening shot shows the facility area of this particular park. We have a medium power station, very recognizable, and we have the ATV station that we'd already seen screenshots of in the right hand side. Now on the left, I believe that could be the new ACU building. I can just see the tip of a helicopter tail rotor hiding behind the building, so I believe that's the new ACU. But what I actually want to draw attention to is this sort of lovely Japanese wall section that they have around this area. So you can see actually behind this wall they've got a series of buttresses made of these big metal girders located behind the big structures here. So it's kind of like how they do it at theme parks, where you just see the front of a structure and it looks very pretty, but actually behind it there is nothing. I think this is a very interesting way of building this out, and it feels very realistic. I also have to say I absolutely love this sort of structure, this sort of wall to guard off the facility part of the park. And I think it really demonstrates just how versatile the modular building system is going to be seeing this, because it looks pretty clear to me that this has basically all been modularly built. Then we have a little shot of our ATV guy just driving to a break in the fence where this Brachiosaurus is and repairing the break in the fence, nothing too over the top there. We have a shot of those lovely gates as he continues driving around the park, and it is interesting as we see him drive around this park. I do wonder how much of this is modular and how much of it is prefabbed. Now, the next section of this video basically follows the construction of a new enclosure. Now, at the very start, we see the area where they're going to build it and highlighting the terrain tools on the left-hand side, but what I want to highlight is the buildings in the center. You can see there is the return of the power generator building that we had from Jurassic World Evolution 2, and just up from it, it looks like a new design of viewing gallery. Now, it's difficult to see from this distance, but it looks like the Japanese style of viewing gallery is going to have a sort of slightly angled, completely panoramic glass frontage for the entire building. I think it looks very interesting. I'd like to see another look at that. If we could get a closer look at some of these, would be nice. And then the rest of this section, as I say, highlights the building of the enclosure. So we see them using the standard terrain tools to dig out an area of terrain, highlighting how at the map border it automatically created those rocks as we've seen before. He carves out quite a large area of this particular enclosure and then creates a nice ramp downwards for it in there. At about the 25-second mark, we do get another slightly closer look of that new viewing gallery, which I think looks really nice, as well as obviously some amenities in the back there. And then we see him putting in some water, so we have the shallow water being placed down first, and then we have the deeper water being placed down within it. So this does demonstrate that we can mix both shallow water and deep waters together rather than them being separate entities, which was, I don't think it was entirely obvious by the information we've gotten so far that we could mix both together, but it's nice to see that in action. I would say that the deep water, it does look a bit weird. It's just a big blue splodge in the middle of the very shallow water. I'm hoping that we can sort of alleviate that with terrain colors. Then he puts in a nice ridge line there, which he is going to use for environmental detail. Now he switches at the 34-second mark to the environment tab, which has everything on it for us to decorate. And he starts with the arid and barren, selecting the brush boulder wastes. And what you can see that happens is it actually creates this, I'm not sure what to call, a mosaic of rockwork all over where the brush is. It looks very intricate and very detailed. I'm not 100% sure I like it, because I think it looks kind of, I want to say fake. It looks, how can I explain it? It reminds me of the sort of defenses you see at some beaches, you know, the big chunky pieces of concrete that are all kind of rolled up together to defend, you know, eroding surfaces on beaches. It looks nice, but I don't think I would consider it natural in a weird way. I've never seen any sort of rocky area that looks like that. You do get, you know, rock faces, but not higgledy-piggledy piles of rocks built up like that. Naturally, it just looks a bit weird. I know that's a weird thing to sort of be critical of. I just think it looks a bit strange. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. After that, we then see him decide on the leaf, fiber, fruit, or nut selection. He starts by looking at calamites and then selects Tempescua. And you can see it's actually really quite, in terms of foliage density, it's actually really very dense. He then switches to calamites for some more. So we have the return of the paleobotany from Jurassic World Evolution 2. Then he decides to just try the seed plants instead. One thing I would say is it's a bit disappointing to see how many trees actually form on this brush. Yet again, like Jurassic World Evolution 2, it seems that actually getting this game to make trees is going to be quite difficult. He then switches to standard woodland cover, which creates a nice little effect on that ridge. He then basically sort of haphazardly fills the rest of the enclosure with calamites. And again, it sort of highlights that yes, it creates plenty of bushes, almost a messy amount of bushes, but very few trees. He then puts in some more water and adds a little bit of wetland terrain around as well. Not much, but is what it is. The next interesting thing is he decides to connect the waterfall that's already present on the map to this enclosure. So he heads over to where the waterfalls are, uses the water brush at the base of where the pre-existing waterfall is, and it automatically creates a new section of the waterfall. He looks to have some trouble, but eventually he does get it to work, and I think this looks loads better than the version of the waterfall we saw in the trailer. It actually is a very clear, sort of frothy sort of effect. Still no splashing, but it looks a lot better than the version we saw in the trailer. And I actually think it creates quite a nice looking waterfall as well, like with those rocks that it's automatically put there and the triple streams. It looks very artistic and very natural. And that's one of the things I'm looking at when I'm looking at Jurassic World Evolution 3. How natural are all these tools going to allow us to build the enclosures? And this looks pretty decent, I have to say. We then watch him place down a hatchery, which looks like it has exactly the same appearance as the one we all know and love. And we see him connect it to the path. Now, something I want to highlight here is on the left-hand side, we do have multiple path types. Now, it looks like they're in different width groups, but it looks like we have 8 or 9 paths here. I think we have, yes, one of them looks to be sort of a reddish brick. We have some natural looking ones that look like grass and gravel and stone. There are some darker ones which I'm guessing are going to be tile. It's difficult to tell from this image, but I think looking at how many types of path are here, I think there's going to be more than, you know, the 3 that the game launched with and the 6 that we have now. I think there's going to be more than just that number of paths, which is nice. Now we see him using the modular building system to add some rocks. You can see just how many varieties of rocks this game is going to come with. Quite a variety of rocks in both size, shape, and color. And we see him using very large pillared rocks to basically block the sides down by the hatchery in order to make it an enclosure. And then we have this nice shot of this enclosure with, I believe that is the Triceratops in there. We go to the lagoon, and this lagoon is on the tropical map based on the thatched buildings we have here. Again, it looks very nice. Lots of waterfalls here, lots of rocks here. And we can see that there are rock ledges overlapping into the lagoon section. So I think this does demonstrate that the lagoons are going to be a little more decorative. You know, we're going to have more ability to decorate them in this particular game. Something I would notice about this lagoon is there is no shark feeder. So I don't know how the mosasaur, which is in this lagoon, is eating. That could indicate that maybe there's going to be a different way of feeding them, or perhaps they just don't have diets on at the moment. And we head into the lagoon where we see the mosasaur and mosasaur babies we've seen in the trailer swimming about. Now, I have to say this section of the lagoon doesn't give very much away. We do see some nice looking rock formations in the background of the first shot, and then we have this wonderful rock arch in the second. Now, I believe, based on the shape of these rocks and how two of these rocks appear to be identical types of rock just put together, I think this particular archway has been manually created with modular building and then positioned here. I do wonder, looking at sort of the plants and stuff that are growing around it, I wonder if they're going to be part of the modular building system as well, because it looks like they've been personally placed. But you know, having that rock arch there is very nice. And then we just have the sort of social animation between the two baby mosasaurs. I do hope they expand the range of animations, because this is yet again just a swim around each other animation that we saw a lot in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Now, as we do that animation, there is something on the right-hand side, and I'm not sure what it is. It just looks like a grill. It has a concrete base, and then it looks like there's a sort of netting or mesh grill rising up from it, and that's all we see of it. I have no idea what that could be, but it could be indicative of anything for the lagoons. But a new building is a new building. And then we have this nice underbelly shot of what I assume is the family unit. So we have, I would guess, the male is the biggest mosasaur, female is the slightly smaller one, and then I believe the other two juveniles are at the same stage of development, it's just they're at different levels. But this does indicate also that family groups will move and swim together for the lagoon animals, which is, you know, nice to know, and then that's it. So there is quite... And I wouldn't say this is like an overwhelmingly amazing video, but there is some tantalizing new bits of information in here. I think for me the most important element is actually seeing them construct the enclosure. It's interesting to see them utilizing these tools. I'm not convinced about some details, like the lack of trees being put down by the brushes, which was an annoying thing about Jurassic World Evolution 2. But I have to say that the enclosure they've ended up with does look pretty good for a very quick enclosure. I'm assuming people like me and Evo are going to create far superior enclosures to anything Frontier has ever done, because we always do. But just seeing how they could quickly put together this, and seeing how the rock creation and everything works, and the waterfall creation in more detail, it is you know, useful information here. So let me know down in the comments which bit of this video you found the most revealing and interesting. Like I said, I'm going to keep a notice for more info about Jurassic World Evolution 3, so if you do want to hear my thoughts on any new news we get, please do subscribe, and I will see you next time. Until then, stay safe, and goodbye.